All right. We should be live now. Okay. I said I was singing Let's Do It Again because I don't know, I had my settings on wrong. So now I have the settings fixed. So now I should be live on um, at least my Instagram platform and also my YouTube platform. So, welcome, you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you don't know who I am Brittainy Noel, mental health therapist here in Houston, Texas. And listen, okay, I committed to going live once a week. And then travel started, and then I got sick, and then I was like, huh. So I said, let me come back. All right. And even now, my allergies are driving me crazy, but I took my medication today. I can breathe. Okay. My throat, because my throat was hurting last week. So listen, okay, give me some grace, y'all. But I am back to go live with you guys because we got so much to talk about. Heart Talks is doing amazing things. Chicago was amazing. Okay. Heart Talks Chicago was amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see the footage from Heart Talks. We got it was just such a good show. It was such a good show. So I'm happy to be back live, Instagram and YouTube. Okay. To all my Instagram folks, if you don't follow me on YouTube, go to Grow with Brittainy on YouTube. And there's actually a lot of content on my YouTube that most people don't even know is there. So if you just want to binge on Brittainy Noel and figure out what all I'll be talking about, go to the YouTube, Grow with Brittainy. Okay, so y'all know all of my people who have been with me A1 day one. When we do our live shows, our live conversations, it's really just a Q&A. So you guys get to ask me questions, and then I give you answers. All right. So get your questions ready. Don't post them yet, because if you start posting them, I'm gonna lose track. Don't post them yet. um, okay. Announcements. All right. Okay. We have Heart Talks Houston. Heart Talks Houston is at the end of this month, April 26th, April 27th. Now, listen, April 26th sold out. So, literally last Friday, I posted the second date, April 27th. That show is already at 50% capacity. All right. So if you want to come to the Houston show, it's gonna sell out by Friday. All right. I'm telling you right now. If you wait till Friday, it's gonna sell out because this morning it was already at 50% capacity. So don't wait, y'all. Just get your tickets because there's not gonna be another show. There's not gonna be another one. Atlanta is almost sold out. We have less than 100 tickets in Atlanta. Atlanta's almost sold out. Now we are going to do the virtual session on June 7th where we're going to stream the Atlanta show. So if you aren't anywhere close to any of the places that we'll be doing Heart Talks, stream it, okay? Go to, what they say, watch online, watch from your couch, all right? You can get the tickets for the for any of the shows at hearttalkstour.com. All right. We will be back in New York. So New York is my birthday show. So we'll be back in New York in August. I'm like, what? When is your birthday? August. August 23rd is the show. My birthday is the 27th. But August 23rd is our show in New York because New York just shows me so much love. So I said this year we're going to close out the show on my birthday weekend anyway, in New York. So if you want to meet me in New York, I will see you in New York. We're going to be in Miami May 9th. No, August 9th. August 9th is Miami. June 21st is LA, okay? LA tickets are doing well too. So again, if you're in LA, don't wait. Um, and then before LA is Atlanta. I think that's all of them. So we have Houston, Atlanta, LA, Miami, New York, all right? And if all else fails, like I said, if you can't get to me in person, definitely join the live stream so that you can be a part of the full show, okay? Um, yeah, so that's our Heart Talks segment, okay? If you want to work with me every day, then the Daily Fix is where you want to be, thedailyfix.co. TDF sound off. I know they somewhere in the chat, okay? TDF is my morning meetup group. They join me every morning, literally almost just about every morning. And they tune in to hear me talk about whatever it is that we're talking about for the month. For the month of April, our topic in the Daily Fix is minding my mental. So I'm teaching them how to master their minds, right? So how do I deal with anxiety? How do I deal with depression? How do I deal with high functioning? I'm functioning, but I'm not well, right? And I think many people can you know, relate to. I'm getting stuff done, right? I'm showing up in my life, but I don't feel well. My life doesn't look the way I want it to look. I'm waking up every day sad. I'm anxious. What do I do? That's what we're addressing in the Daily Fix this week. I mean, this month. And then every Thursday in the Daily Fix are the only group of people who get to watch the full Heart Talk segment replays. So if you ever just want to watch all of the Heart Talk replays, even from our 2024 shows, join the Daily Fix. All right. When you join the Daily Fix, you get access and you can watch our shows from all of the Heart Talks replays, and we post them in clips every Thursday. So every Thursday, a new Heart Talks segment will drop in the Daily Fix. So and when you join the Daily Fix, you get access to over 200 hours of content where I'm teaching. Okay. So if you are serious about changing your life, all right, and you really want to put in some work and you just don't know what you need to do, the Daily Fix is where you need to be. All right. Okay, y'all. Hey, TDF. Hey, Miss Mika. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay. I see. YouTube got it going. All right. Hey, Miss Tanisha, August 9th in Miami. Yes, ma'am. Hey, Will. All right. So let's go ahead and hop in to our Q&A. So not all at once. Okay. If you've never been on my live before, I always say going live with me is where we come to ask we ask hard questions to get honest answers, right? So you guys get to ask me questions and I get to give you answers. It's not always going to be the answer that you want to hear. It's not always going to be the answer that's easy to hear, but we come here for truth. We come here for honesty. All right. So let's see what I see in the chat. Hold on. Let's see what I see in the chat. Um, so many questions. Okay. So many good questions too. I don't even know where to start. Okay. So let's see. Um, the first question I thought I saw it. Uh, oh, how do you approach your partner, I guess, who resorts to lying when he's afraid that I will react badly? Is he a liar or just can't open up? How do I tell the difference? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? So one of the things that we have to stop trying to normalize in relationships is that if I am with someone and the way in which they react or behave in a relationship creates a barrier to us functioning, creates a barrier to us being close, creates a barrier to intimacy, there are some barriers that can be worked through, right? And then there are other barriers that absolutely cannot be worked through. If I'm with someone who I feel is a liar, or I feel like they are withholding, or they don't even have the tools to show up in this relationship the way that I need them to, the reason why they're not showing up actually doesn't matter. And this is where people have to start taking responsibility for the type of love experience that they want to have. So we'll go into relationships with people who don't treat us the way we want to be treated, who don't talk to us the way we want to be talked to. They don't call us. They're not giving us the type of experience that we say we want to have. And instead of disconnecting, I then will spend my time, my energy, my resources trying to make this person be what it is that I want them to be. Well, if I can just understand why they don't communicate, if I can just understand why they're not showing up, if I can just understand what their attachment style is. And so you spend all this time trying to understand them, missing the fact that understanding them is still not going to get you the outcome that you want. So when someone is not showing up in a relationship the way that I need them to in order to feel secure, in order to feel loved, in order to feel like this is a reciprocal interaction between the two of us, I need to find someone who has the ability to offer that to me, right? So we have to get away from trying to understand the why they won't do it and ask myself, why haven't I chosen someone who is willing, open, and ready to do it? Why haven't I chose someone who gives me the type of experience I'm looking for? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. All right. Very good question. Okay, okay. Next question I see. Um, I see Miss Natasha says, "How do you forgive yourself?" So it's a journey, right? Self-forgiveness is a journey. If you guys haven't already, my book is on Amazon. It's called Made for This. If you haven't read that book, I would definitely suggest it. The book it picks up on me telling a story about the end of a 6-year relationship, but it talks about how I was able to go from that relationship where I was completely lost, didn't know who I was, didn't know what I wanted, and I had to go on this journey of self-discovery and figuring out who I was. Um, Definitely get that book because self-forgiveness is a huge part of it. In order for us to forgive ourselves, we have to understand ourselves, right? I think one of the barriers for self-forgiveness is shame. So because I stay in a state of shaming myself, where I am constantly repeating to myself what I didn't do, what I didn't get right, how I got it wrong, how I didn't show up. And so you keep repeating to yourself, is shame is like shame. I was gonna say shame is the abusive boyfriend. Okay, shame shows up and it continues to recite to you all of the ways in which you legitimately made some bad decisions and you got things wrong and you weren't a good person and you didn't show up the way that you wanted to show up. So shame is not necessarily wrong. It's just when it shows up, it's showing up to be destructive. It's not showing up to build. It's not showing up to heal. It's showing up to beat you down. So shame gets in the way of self forgiveness because it's hard to forgive myself when shame keeps reminding me of why I don't deserve forgiveness. Right. So to work through forgiveness, you have to confront the shame. Right. And one of the, I always say that in order to overcome shame, I have to bring things into light. When we're dealing with shame, we keep the things that we're ashamed of. We keep those in the dark. It's like that closet in your house that got all the stuff in it, and you don't want nobody to go in that closet. You got to clean out that closet. You have to bring everything out into the light. I overcome shame by acknowledging what it is that I'm ashamed of, bringing the things to the light that I don't want other people to see, taking ownership of how I showed up and what I looked like and the decisions that I made, and understanding that making the decision, even though it may have been a bad decision, it didn't make me a bad person. Those are two different things, right? I can make a bad decision, but making a bad decision doesn't make me a bad person. And when you start to really work through those things and you start to find a resolution, shame no longer has power. And now that I'm no longer in shame, now I can begin the forgiveness process. Let me understand why I made the decision. Let me understand why I made the mistake. Let me understand why I showed up that way. So when I get to a clear understanding of the why and the how and the who, I can find a different level of understanding and compassion with myself. After the shame comes compassion. Okay? All right. Very good question. Okay, Miss Say says she went to the Chicago show. Hey, Miss Say. Okay, Chicago was such a good show. It was such a good show. Okay, with good people. All right. Okay. She said, I just started reading Made for This. So the name of my book is Made for This. I could feel all the emotions. It was, yeah, it's a very triggering book. Made for This is triggering, and it's supposed to be triggering. I made it to be triggering. I want you to be triggered when you read the book, because I want you to see yourself in my story. I want you to see yourself in the mindset that I was in, because if you can see yourself in the pain, it's my hope that you will eventually be able to see yourself in the healing, right? So if I can see myself in the pain of the story, then I can also see myself in the healing of the story, and that's where the hope comes from. All right. Okay, okay, okay. What are some things I can do after a toxic breakup to keep me occupied and not picking up the phone? Very good question. Listen, when I went through breakup, I was at every baby party you could think of, because all of my friends had kids. So every weekend it was some kid's birthday party, and I was up there with cake. Okay, I was volunteering. I'll bring cupcakes. I'll bring whatever. Okay, keep yourself busy. All right. When you're going through a breakup, idle time is not your friend. This is where you want to get hobbies. All right. You want to start picking flowers. You want to start doing some type of exercise, something that you can do on a routine to keep yourself busy. Because as you are processing a breakup, emotions can be very intense. And it's when I'm having those intense emotional waves that I then want to make a decision that could hurt me, whether it's reaching back out, whether it's, getting on nowadays, it's getting online and posting a breakup video and exposing a whole bunch of stuff that don't need to be exposed to the world, right? Whether it's, going and finding a rebound or getting that little black book and going back to somebody I ain't got no business with, right? So the goal is I want to be as constructive as possible when I am going through a breakup. So that means finding healthy outlets for my emotions. We're not suffocating them. We're not acting like they don't exist. But when we have those huge emotional waves where you feel overcome by them, I have to have something to keep me busy so that I don't do something that I would later regret. That's the coping skill of it all, right? When the emotion comes down and you're more rational, now I can sit down with the journal and really journal what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, right? Now I can be constructive with my pain. Now I can go to a therapy appointment. Now I can, do some work. But when I'm in that emotional space, the goal is to be busy. Be busy doing healthy things, all right? So that, again, when you're emotional, but when you come down and you're no longer as emotional, that's when you do the work, right? Very good. Very good. Okay, Miss Kandala say I got the book twice. Okay, she said I got the book twice. Okay, do I have a second book? The second book is coming. I can't tell you when, but it's coming. Um, Next question. Next question. Let's see. Who's coming to the Houston show? Okay. The question I see is, am I ever coming to Charlotte? I was just in Charlotte not too long ago, but it wasn't for Heart Talks. Okay, how do you communicate your needs, but you also want to know your partner's needs so that it doesn't seem like pressure? I want a family and marriage, but how to talk about it? You say that. You say, I want a family and marriage. What do you want? I would like a family and marriage. What do you want? Right? Here's the thing. Most people don't have problems communicating, right? So the same way you type that message to me, you could have typed that message to them. The reason why we don't communicate, right? The reason why we're not honest in our communication, the reason why we're not straightforward in our communication is not that we don't have the skills to communicate, because we can communicate everything else just fine. What gets in the way of the communication is the fear. If I communicate this, what will happen? If I communicate this, will they leave me? If I communicate this, will they still want to be with me? If I communicate this, will they react a certain way? So you're not struggling with communication. You're struggling with, how do I deal with my own internal fear around communicating my needs in a relationship, right? 9 times out of 10, you probably have an anxious attachment. And I don't have a cold, it's my allergies. Okay. Y'all pray for me. All right. Because my voice is, I don't know. I need my voice by the time the Houston show comes around. But with people who struggle with anxious attachment, you water down what you want in relationships. You're not honest about what you need. You try to minimize your needs because you think that if I am really honest about what I need and what I'm looking for, that the other person will think it's too much and they will reject me. And so you end up in relationships with false advertisement. You're false advertising what it is that you actually want. And so you're telling them that you're cool with going with the flow. You're telling them that you're cool with seeing where it goes. You're telling them that you're cool if we do or don't have kids. And so you're going with the flow so that you don't have to face rejection. Right? So it's not the communication that you struggle with. What you struggle with is the belief system that is leading to the fear of rejection. I believe that if I voice my concerns, I believe that if I'm honest about what I want, I believe that if I tell the truth about who I am or how I want to show up in this relationship, if I give my full self, there will be some type of blowback for it. That's what I believe. And so because I believe that, there's a fear, and the fear is what stops me from communicating. Right? So you have to pinpoint the fear, call the fear by name. What is the name of the fear? It's not just I'm afraid. I'm afraid is a very general statement, but it tells you nothing about yourself. I'm afraid of. I'm afraid if. I'm afraid that. Once I get to the clear understanding of what the fear is, now I know what to do with it. Okay, well, if I'm afraid that if I'm honest, they will reject me. Okay, cool. If they reject me, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Between all of us, we have all been rejected quite a few times, right? I said all the time, listen, if I get rejected, it ain't the first time it's happened, right? It's not the first time that someone has decided not to meet my needs. It won't be the last. If I survived one rejection, I can survive another. Now, the reason why I can say that confidently is because my sense of self is solid. I have a solid foundation outside of a relationship. So someone rejecting me does not force me to change my identity. Someone rejecting me is not a hit against who I am as a person or what value I can bring someone. So when I have a solid foundation in who I am, rejection is less powerful. The people who are the most affected by rejection are the people who are relying on outside validation to confirm who they are. I need you to like me so that I believe I'm likable. I need you to love me so I believe that I'm lovable. It's the outside validation that proves to me that I'm worth something. So if I have, success on my job, it means I'm successful. If my business is doing great, then I feel great. But if my business is doing bad, then I feel bad, right? So your sense of self cannot be predicated upon what's going on outside of you. I have to have a solid sense of self. So if you know that you have an anxious attachment, the key to dealing with voicing my needs, because being able to voice my needs confidently in a relationship, that's a byproduct. That's a byproduct of building a strong sense of self, right? So the prerequisite is to do me so that then I can show up in my relationships authentic. Then I can show up in my relationships real, right? And hear me, because this is the other component. I said that if I'm rejected, it don't change much in my life, right? My internal thoughts, okay? Say, when one train leaves the station, another one is coming, right? But it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, because this is the other component. Can you be rejected and tolerate the emotional pain that comes with rejection without sabotaging? Have you become emotionally mature enough that you can tolerate feeling pain or feeling uncomfortable or feeling embarrassed without sabotaging? So that's the other piece of it. So not only is it building my sense of self, learning who I am, and standing 10 toes down in who I am, but now I also have to do my emotional work so that I can move through this life and encounter hard emotions, and I can feel tough emotions, and I can feel painful emotions and still stay true to who I am. Okay? I told someone this the other day. There's this huge misconception that people think that healing means I never feel pain ever again, right? That doing the work gives me this unbothered mindset where nothing bothers me. That's not healing. If you have done the work and now it means you go through life and you're unbothered, nothing bothers you, you haven't done the work. You've learned how to avoid hard emotions, but you haven't done the work. Doing the work says that I am not having to shield myself from hard emotions, but I can feel tough emotions. I can feel a wide spectrum of emotions and still stay true to who I am. I'm not going to sabotage. I'm not going to start drinking or smoking or start medicating myself. I can feel pain, acknowledge that it exists, self soothe, cope with it, and then come out on the other side. That's what healing looks like. The ability to actually feel what I'm feeling without denying it, minimizing it, or running away from it. Right? So I forgot the question. Whatever the question was, that's the answer. Okay, very good. Okay, YouTube had a question. Let me see. Okay, let me see if I get this question. They said, I feel like I'm afraid of doing better, like I will also lose something, and the feeling of loss is greater than the want to do better. How can I look at this different? I'm afraid of doing better, like I will lose something. Well, okay. So, um, in order for you to do better, you do lose. In fact, you lose a lot. In order to do better, you lose. Think of when they talk about rocket ships, is it? Right? When they shoot a rocket up in the air, or is it a spacecraft? I don't know. But when they shoot it up in the air, the higher that the spacecraft gets, it eventually the boosters fall off, right? The boosters were the things that it needed in order to get it from the ground up into the atmosphere. Once it's in the atmosphere, now it can fly freely, right? Hence, the boosters which were needed to get off the ground now become a hindrance because in order for the rocket to go higher, it has to be lighter. In order for the rocket to go higher, it has to be lighter. So the boosters that it needed to get off the ground, in one stage, they were helpful. In the next stage, they were a hindrance. So in order for me to get better, it means that at some point in my journey, I'm going to have to shed the things that I once needed to survive. I'm going to have to shed the things that I once thought I couldn't live without. I'm going to have to shed the things I thought would always be a part of my identity. So the higher that I want my life to go, there are things that I will continuously have to lose in order for me to travel lightly, in order for me to travel with a clear conscience, in order for me to travel without guilt, in order for me to travel with clarity. I have to continuously purge myself of things that may have been helpful in one season and they are a hindrance in the other. For a lot of people who have a fear of losing, and what you're saying is, I've lost some things, right? When I have a fear of losing, it means that I've lost some things before, right? And I'm someone who, I don't like losing nothing. Listen, I'm a deep lover. Okay, when you my friend, you my friend. When I love you, and I want you here forever in your mind and stay, right? And I learned that that's just not feasible, right? To truly love something is loving it even when it can't stay. To truly love something or someone is loving you enough to say, in order for, if you stayed here, the two of us would hurt each other more than we would help each other. I love you enough to release you so that I don't hurt you. I love you enough to release you so that you don't hurt me. I love you enough to let you go because we will never be free with one another. That's what true love looks like. So the relationship with loss that you have to reframe for yourself is that losing something, while I may grieve the fact that it has to leave, the greatest way I honor something is by releasing it when it's time for it to go. The greatest way I honor something is by releasing it when it's time for it to go. Because holding on to you will continue to hurt you and it hurts me. I love you enough that I want to see you fly. So I release you so that you can go and do what you got to do, and I'm going to go and do what I got to do. That's what real love is, right? So when we talk about, and there's also a component of you have to develop a level of love of self, right? You have to develop a level of love of self that I love myself so much that I'm willing to do, and then you do XYZ, right? I love me so much that I'm willing to walk away from. I love me so much that I'm willing to invest in. I love me so much that I'm willing to sacrifice. And you fill in the blank. What do you love yourself enough to let go of? Right? Many of the things that I've had to release, I released them because I loved myself enough to release them. Right? Realizing that and listen, this is a big, that's a big girl conversation. It is a big girl conversation when you realize that I'm releasing you not because I want to, not because it makes me happy, but I'm releasing you because I'm never going to be what you want me to be. I'm releasing you because I'm never going to be able to give you the type of love experience that you're looking for. I'm releasing you because it's clear to me that I'm not the girl that you want. I'm releasing you because it's clear to me that there's something else that'll brighten your smile. There's something else that'll make your day. And I'm willing to release you so that you can go find that. Because I'm not that. Right? That's a big girl conversation when you can admit to yourself that I'm releasing you because I know I'm not what you want, right? So, your fear of growing and becoming better will be lessened when you change the perspective that you have of loss. Losing and releasing is a part of growing, it's a part of evolving, it's a part of life. There is no way around it, right? So I have to develop a relationship with things that I cannot change. Okay. How we feeling? How we feeling? How we feeling? Okay, I have another question. I'm gonna do another YouTube question. And where my guys at? Because y'all know I like to get questions from the guys too. So if you're a guy, put a question in the chat, but hold it because I'm gonna answer the YouTube question and then I'm gonna come back to the guy question. I don't want to lose it. Okay. I'm gonna be in the Bay Area in June 21st. Right. That's the Bay Area. LA, is LA the Bay Area? LA. I'm being LA on the June 21st. Okay. Um, Miss Smith. Okay, I feel like I have a hard time creating goals and aspirations for my life. I want more, but I don't know what more looks like for me. What do you think can be blocking me? Mm, it could be a few things, right? So when we struggle to create a vision for our lives, it could be a few reasons why that is, right? If you know, I want more, I just don't know what it is. So a piece of it is, I want more, but I don't know what it is. And many times the reason why I don't know what it is because I don't know who I am. The clearer I get on who I am, the more direction I have of where I want my life to go and what's actually going to light me up, right? So that's where that's one avenue, right? So there could be a lack of self identity that could be missing, right? But also for people who have a hard time creating goals and aspirations for their life, um, many times they're struggling with grief, whether they realize it or not. right? And grief cannot is not just I'm grieving the death of a person, right? But I can grieve old visions of myself that didn't happen. I can grieve old relationships. I can grieve old dreams or goals that didn't take place. I can grieve things that the way I thought my life was going to go, right? So many people who are grieving, essentially, when you have a broken heart and life has done what life does, and you have a sense of brokenness about you, it's hard for me to create another vision because I'm looking at life through the lens of hurt and pain. So it's hard for me to develop a vision of what's possible because when I'm looking at life through a lens of hurt and pain, I'm not hopeful that this can get better. I'm not hopeful that I can build a life that feels good. I'm not hopeful that change is coming my way, right? So you'll be blocked at trying to see anything good for yourself because grief has changed the way you see the world. I'll give you a great example. Today it's hilarious to me today. It was not hilarious when it happened. But I remember I went to a conference years ago, and this was when I went through this conference, I was struggling with my own grief about um, relationships breaking down, business broke down. My life was I was completely starting over in my life, and I was angry about it, and I was hurt about it, and I was grieving heavily. And I went to this conference, and right before I went to the conference, I got a phone call and it was more bad news on the phone call. And so as I'm walking, I was excited to go to the conference because I'm like, oh, I may get inspired. But literally walking into the conference, I got a bad phone call. And I was like, okay, more stuff that's not going my way. And so we're doing this exercise. And in the conference, there was like a group exercise where they wanted you to describe an emotion, right? You had to describe an emotion, but you had to do it um, only through words. So you could only do it, you could have to describe the emotion only through words, but you couldn't say what the emotion was. So your group had to guess what emotion you were describing. I was the last person to go. Okay. Everybody, there, one girl, her emotion was joy. The next guy, his emotion was excitement. The next girl, her emotion was love. And then it got to me and I'm describing, right? And I remember I did it so beautifully because I'm a great speaker. And I remember saying words like gray, cloudy. I think I said an empty home, right? And so I'm giving them these words to describe what I'm feeling, and they could not guess the emotion, right? And they're just going, they're like, what? And they're throwing out emotions, and I'm like, nope, nope, nope. And the thing is that they're throwing out all these happy emotions. They're throwing out all these happy emotions, and I'm like, no. And so when the time was up, they were like, what emotion was it? And I said, grief. And they said, oh, oh. And the guy sitting next to me, he goes, you're a little jaded, aren't you? So yeah, yeah. That jaded is the perfect word to describe what I am right now, right? So that is a perfect example of when we are grieving, the way we view the world. It's like you view the world with this overcast. It doesn't matter how bright it is outside. Everything is overcast, everything is gray. And so it's hard for me to see my way through. It's hard for me to see a future when I'm in grief. And this is why we have to have a real relationship with our emotions. Because here's the thing, when I was going through that, there was nothing for me to fix. Hear me. When I was going through my season of grief, there was nothing for me to fix. Just because I'm feeling terrible and life is not working for me, it doesn't mean that I need to go and hurry up and fix it. What I had to do was walk through that process and walk through that pain and walk through the disappointment. Did it change me? Absolutely. Grief changes you, right? But I was able to be with myself in that time, be compassionate with myself in that time, be loving with myself in that time. right? When I left the conference that day, I think I went to the beach and sat on the beach and just cried. Right? I was like, I don't need the afternoon sessions. I'm just gonna go on the beach and just cry this out real quick, right? Sit on the beach and just cry, and allowed myself to miss what will never be. Allowed myself to release what could not go into the next phase of my life. Allowed myself to release the expectations of where I thought my life is going and who I thought I was going to be and what I thought I would have. I allowed myself to sit with grief. And when you can sit with grief, you realize I can feel grief and understand to feel grief doesn't mean that I have failed. This wasn't a failure. You did everything that you could have did. You did everything that you knew how to do. The breakdown wasn't on you, but it was for you, right? So this is where not knowing where you want to go right now, that's not your biggest problem, because that'll come. Clarity will come with alignment. Clarity will come when you get in alignment. I would tell you to focus on your emotional house. Start a journal, especially for people who don't have good relationships with their emotions. Start a journal, and as you go throughout your day, like at the end of every day, I would journal and say, what did I feel today? What evoked that feeling for me, right? Did I feel good? Put a name to it. Get your emotional wheel. I felt anxious today. I felt sad today. I felt depressed today. I felt overlooked today. I felt minimized today. I felt disappointed today. I felt like a failure today. And start to open up that dialogue between why I felt these emotions. So it's not judging myself for feeling the emotions. You're allowed to feel the emotion, but I want to understand, why is it here, right? At that time, my grief was teaching me a lesson. It was teaching me some very powerful lessons that shaped who I am for the better, right? It shaped who I am and how I show up in this world. So start opening up a dialogue between you and your emotions, and clarity about where you want your life to go will come as you process, right? Processing my grief the way that I did is the reason why I live my life in a certain way, right? I don't let much of anything really stress me out anymore. I realize that most things don't actually matter as much as I thought they did. Most things are not as relevant, as they don't deserve as much energy as I used to give them. Processing that grief showed me that there are certain rooms I don't want to be in. There are certain relationships I do not want. That's what grief taught me. It showed me how to be true to myself, right? So allow the emotions to teach you your lessons. All right, very good. All right, she said, I got the book yesterday. Very good. Very good. Okay. Okay. Who has the next question? I wanted a question from a guy. There we go. There we go. Okay. I recently ended a long relationship 9 months ago and met someone who validates me and meets me where I am. How can I manage my anxious attachment behaviors? Okay. Whew. All right. So you ended a relationship 9 months ago and you met someone who validates me and meets me where I am. Okay. So with anxious attachment, the first and foremost is slow down, slow down, slow down, right? Because one of the things about anxious attachment is, one, um, having an anxious attachment means that you love validation. You love feeling like your partner sees you. You love feeling like they're in tune with you. And so you will very quickly connect with people who make you feel like the center of attention, right? They make you feel like they are in tune with your needs and they can anticipate your needs. So you're very susceptible, or vulnerable, should I say. You're very vulnerable to people who are going to meet that need, right? And it feels good to have that need met. But with people with anxious attachments, what happens is you get attached based on behavior, and then you dismiss character. Just let that sit. So you get it attached on behavior and then you dismiss character. So behavior, right? When someone likes me, it's easy for their behavior to be loving or kind, or they're showing me attention, or they're giving me, affirmation, and they're giving me gifts. So when someone is into me, especially in the beginning when things feel good, right? um their behaviors are typically behaviors that I want to see. But someone's character is revealed over time. How do you treat me when I'm not the person, when I'm not as good to you? How do you treat me when I'm having a bad day? How do you treat me when you're having a bad day? How do you treat me when you don't need me? How do you treat me when you don't need me? How do you treat me when a better option is available? How do you treat me when you have to choose between showing up for me or sacrificing what you need? That's where character is revealed. So this is why I say slow down, because behavior, especially in new relationships, feels great. But over time is when I see someone's character. Character is revealed in patterns. Character is revealed in patterns. So when I see a pattern of you being consistent, now I can say you're a consistent person. When I see a pattern of you being loyal, now I can say you're a loyal person. When I see a pattern of you showing up loving, now I can say you're a loving person. But just because you were loving to me because you liked me in the beginning does not mean you're a loving person. It doesn't mean that. Right? This is why they say, pay attention to how your date treats the waitress. Because how they treat the waitress is how they're going to treat you when y'all are having an off moment. That's their character. That's how you treat people, right? So with an anxious attachments, what happens is you fall in love because they're showing you great behaviors, and it's the behaviors that hit you in your heart. Because with an anxious attachment, you are the most vulnerable with people who give you that thing that you've been missing. So when they give you that thing that you've been missing, that's what you get attached to. And then you start making excuses for the ways that their character doesn't always show up with the type of person you want to be with. So slow down so that you can see character over their behavior. And I have a rule. When you are in a place where you have to keep making excuses for people, right? Making excuses for why they don't show up for you, making excuses for why they're always busy, making excuses for why they don't call, or making excuses for whatever, right? When you are constantly making excuses for people, that is a red flag. It doesn't even mean that it doesn't even mean that they're a bad person. I think we're always waiting for them to be bad people before we decide that they're not the type of love experience we want. They don't have to be bad. They just are not a good fit for you. Okay? So slow down. Pay attention to character. If this new person is treating you well over time, I would say, let's see, if you ended a relationship 9 months ago and it was a long-term relationship, it's very likely that you're not over your ex. Let's just start. Right? You probably still have some emotional residue from the past relationship as well. So I think you need to be honest with yourself about that. While you may be ready to move on, it doesn't mean that there's still not emotional residue. Both of those things can be true. I'm ready to move on and I still have feelings. Both of those things can be true. So allow yourself to be honest with yourself about what you are ready for right now, right? Because that's another thing with anxious attachers. Because with an anxious attachment, you want to get your emotional need met, right? And so what'll happen is, and this is where people, because people, period, right, can be manipulative in the love department, whether it's men or women, right? But sometimes I'm moving into a new relationship, and if I'm still healing from the past relationship I was in, I may not be 100% available to this new person, right? Maybe I'm 50% available, maybe I'm 70% available, but my heart may not be ready to give itself to someone else again. And that is an honest conversation. While I definitely want to date other people, I want to be out here, I want to have fun, I get it. But my just because I'm dating doesn't mean my heart is available. And that's an honest conversation that we have to have with ourselves and then we have to have with the people that we're dating, right? What am I actually available for? And while a love relationship is in my long-term goal, right now I'm still recovering. Right now I'm still unpacking what all was going on in that last relationship, and my heart may not be ready to embrace another person right now. Okay? We have to be honest about that. Okay, you guys. Let's see. We got 9 minutes. All right. Let's get one more Instagram question. What if their character contradicts their words? I don't get that question. Character doesn't lie. So if their words say one thing and their character say another, character don't lie. Um, okay. How long healing? There is healing is a lifelong journey. Strap in. Put on the seatbelt and strap in, right? There is no time frame for healing, right? When you talk about how long now, you could say how long until the bleeding stops, right? Because that's a different conversation, right? But we're always healing, and because you're constantly living, you're constantly taking on damage, right? It doesn't. If you are living in this world, there's one thing, and I don't know if it's in the Bible or not, but like when I'm in my deep thoughts, one of the things I always like contemplate, right, is the fact that to live this life, we are constantly exposed to suffering, period. Right? That's one of the things that I'm like literally seeking to find wisdom, because I'm like, as long as I am living in this earth, on this earth, I'm going to be exposed to suffering. There's no way around it, right? And it's a cycle. There will be seasons in my life that are beautiful and gorgeous, and we're successful, and things are thriving, and things are growing, just like the seasons in the earth, where spring and summer, we love spring and summer, and it's sunshine, and it's warm, and we're out, and we're having fun. And the spring, summer feel great, but then we have fall and winter too. In fall and winter, things are cold and things are dying and things are going into hibernation. And while things are bleak in spring, in fall and winter, it doesn't mean that life stops. It doesn't mean that there's not still beauty in those seasons. So life is a continuous cycle of blossoming and growing and death and dying and blossoming and growing and death and dying and gaining and growing and losing and grieving. It's a constant cycle, constantly. So the idea that I reach an end point with my healing is unrealistic. It's unrealistic, right? Right now I'm in a beautiful season. Right now is a springtime. Right now is a summertime. But I'm not naive. I know that, at any given time there's a winter on the way. The difference is that I have learned now, one, I know to expect winter, right? But now I also know that winter, there's a such thing as going through winter without having to sacrifice joy. I can go through a winter without sacrificing peace. I can go through a winter without losing hope. Because younger Brittany, when winter showed up, it was like the world is over. God, come back now. I'm ready to go. Call me up, Jesus. Okay. This is the grace of growing and growing and becoming older. You learn to look at life in a different way, right? So healing is everlasting. Now, bleeding, right? Bleeding is when I get into suffering. So I can be healing, but I don't have to be suffering, right? And there are ways that we inflict our own suffering, There are ways that others can inflict suffering on us, and there are ways that we prolong suffering. And that's what I have control. I have control of whether or not I suffer. I do have control of whether or not I suffer. I don't control winter. I don't control loss. I don't control that, but I do control if I'm going to suffer through it. I do control that. So that's what you can work on, is how do I learn to embrace every season I'm in, even if the season I'm in is a winter season, even if the season I'm in is a fall season. One of the prayers I started praying years ago was that whatever I have to go through, I would say, God, let me go through it with grace. Like I didn't want to lose my dignity in my pain. I didn't want to lose my dignity in my seasons of darkness. Give me the ability to embrace whatever life has for me with grace, right? So that's what I have for you guys. Was this good for you? Was this helpful? I hope that something was said tonight that helps you. Now, the replay for this, if you're just joining, the replay will be on my Instagram. Not Instagram, YouTube. The replay will be on my YouTube channel, Grow with Brittainy. You can watch the full, and there's other lives on there as well that you can watch and get caught up on. If you want to work with me every day, then the Daily Fix is where you want to be. Join the Daily Fix. I'll give you guys the website, thedailyfix.co. Right now, the theme for the month of April is minding my mental, because we are focusing on getting our mindsets together, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, really understanding what those things mean, and how they affect you. If you want to see me live, then you need to come to Heart Talks, okay? Come to Heart Talks because I love what I do. Listen, every time I want to complain about my life, I'll be like, man, you're doing what you want to do in your life. You suffered enough. Some point God was like, I'm gonna give her a win so she will get off my line, okay? So I'm in a phase of my life where it's like I'm literally doing what comes as easy as breathing, right? And it feels good and I love it and I love meeting you guys in person. So if you can come in person, I would love to meet you, all right? If you can't come in person, we do have our June 7th virtual session, all right? So go to hearttalkstour.com and you can join virtually. Okay, New York. Okay, Atlanta. Houston. LA. Okay, I see y'all. But yeah, if you can't come in person, you can definitely join um, the virtual session on June 7th. So just go to, you came from Toronto to Chicago? It's a drive. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yes, y'all gotta come. I'm telling you, there's no substitute for being in the room for sure, because just how y'all come to, like, and that was my goal for Heart Talks. Like I wanted to show what community looks like, right? Because it's such a interesting thing how from the start of the show, from the way we start the show to the way we finish the show, everyone in the room feels connected, and I love it. Jesus, I love it. I love it because that's what I wanted to create. I wanted to create an environment where you didn't feel like you were healing alone, right? And the that happens at Heart Talks. Like people have come by themselves, and like I came by myself, but I left with a friend, right? I love it. I love it. I love it. So we have Houston, okay? We have Houston. Um, Come on now. April, April 26th, April 27th. The 26th is sold out. The 27th is 50% capacity. So if you want to get in the room, got to hurry up. All right. And then we have Atlanta's almost sold out too. Atlanta's the next city, and that's almost sold out. They have less than 100 tickets. And then we got, let me see, Atlanta. LA. LA is doing well with ticket sales. Miami, New York. All right. So this has been an amazing show. Can't even say Tuesday. I used to call it Tuesday Night Live, but today's Wednesday. Today has been amazing Wednesday night live. Okay. Hello, Miss Claudette. You were at the Spread the Love Summit. Very good. Good to see you, ma'am. Um, you were in the room in Brooklyn. Are we in Manhattan? I think we are in Manhattan this year. I think so. Okay. All right, I gotta let y'all go. Yes, you need to come to a Hard Talks. Chicago's 5 hours from you. We're gonna have to get you in the room. We're gonna have to get you in the room for sure. All right. Y'all have an amazing night. And I will see the Daily Fix. I will see you guys for our live question and answer on Friday. If you're in the Daily Fix, you guys are watching a Heart Talks segment tomorrow. So if you ever want to watch the full clips of our Heart Talks shows, join the Daily Fix. All right. Y'all have an amazing night. And I will see you guys next week. I'm going to be back next week. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to get rid of these allergies and I'm going to be back. All right. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.